What's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new story. Today we have a story of a Karen who calls the police because she thinks that I am trespassing on my own property. And yeah, when the police tell the Karen that oh no, this is actually his property, she breaks into my house to try and prove that I'm trespassing on my own property by trespassing on my property. This is one of the craziest Karen stories you'll hear in a while, so sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new, leave a like on the video to claim your free nothing, and let's just jump right into it. So anyways, we're going to call the subscriber who submitted this story Aaron. So Aaron just moved into a new house in a new neighborhood with one of his college friends. So him and one of his college buddies both got jobs at the same, I don't know, is it like a bank or consulting firm or something? They're both making pretty solid money. So they actually are able to move into a house together, which is pretty cool. They're basically, or renting or what, I don't know. They either bought the house or they're renting it and have proof that they're renting it. Either way, they are legally in this house, right? And so they move in, they're moving their stuff in, and they see this woman, who is presumably their neighbor, looking over at them very suspiciously. And they kind of look, and Aaron decides to wave because he's he's a nice, upstanding citizen who wants to be nice to his neighbors and be friendly and be a good individual. And the Karen looks at him, glares at him, and turns away. So Aaron kind of looks over at his friends, looks over at his friend and says, "Hey man, looks like we got some pretty friendly neighbors." And he's like, "I don't know. She's probably just old or set in her ways or something and doesn't like new people in the neighborhood. It's going to be whatever." Little did they know, it was not going to be whatever, it was going to be quite an ordeal. So anyways, right, a little bit later on, as they're moving in, they've fully moved in. They're getting set up. They're putting the stuff together. I think they're setting up their living room or whatever, hanging the windows, or did I just say hanging the windows? Hanging the paintings by the windows, getting the couch all put together, whatever, right? They hear a knock on the door, and this is not a polite, bop, bop, bop. This is a boom, 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 boom. FBI, open up. Kind of like one of those type of knocks, right? So they hear the knocks, and they go over to, at least, what I say his name was. Aaron? Yeah, we're going to call him Aaron. So Aaron decides to go over to the door just to see who it is, opens it up, and it is the same lady that gave him a very grumpy look earlier on in the day. And he's like, "Hey, ma'am, what's up?" And in the middle of him saying, "How's it going?" she's like, "I know that you're here illegally." And he kind of just looks at her and is like, what? I really don't know what you're saying. And she's like, "I know that you're not actually supposed to be here and that you're here illegally. You're squatting in this house." Basically, if you don't know what squatting is, when there's an empty house that has no one in it, but it's in between leases or something like that, people will go in and just live there. I don't think it's the most harmful thing ever, but it is technically illegal. You can't do it unless you own or you're renting the property or whatever. And but yeah, so the Karen thinks that these two are squatting, which, first of all, if you're squatting, you're probably not going to move in you're not going to move in an entire house worth of furniture. You might move in I don't know, a bed or a sleeping bag, or just enough that you can be here and also pack up and move quickly. Because the thing is, if you're squatting in a house, there's a decent chance that you're going to be asked to leave at any moment, right? So you're not going to want to move 1,000 items into the house. You're not going to want to move every item from your past, right? So anyways, yeah, sure enough, the Karen continues on to blame them. Aaron at this point's like, "Ma'am, we're legally either," I don't know if they owned it or rented it. Let's just say that they owned it for the sake of the video. Either way, it's going to turn out the same way. He's like, "We recently just bought this house. We have proof of such or whatever." And she's like, "I don't believe it. There is no way that you two could be in a house like this." And he's like, "Well, we're not squatting, right? We're your neighbors." This is not a great first introduction, by the way. Sorry. This is not a great first introduction, bro. This is not a great first impression. Because, of course, the common saying is you can always make a first impression twice. Just kidding. You can only make it once, and this is the Karen's first introduction to them. This is their first impression of her. She's like, "Show me proof or you are squatters." And at this point, Aaron is kind of done with her nonsense. And to go and find the deed or whatever, they did have it, and they did have it with them, so they could in theory. But first of all, Aaron wasn't trying to put up with this Karen's demands of, "Oh, I demand you to do this, I demand you to do that." And also, it would have taken a decent amount of time, like 5 or 10 minutes of searching through stuff, not hours. This was not like going to the DMV. This was not a 10-year experience, right? But at the same time, it was going to take a second, and Erin didn't want to give this lady any more attention than she deserved, which was literally no attention. She deserved not to be acknowledged, honestly. And so he says so. He says, I have the deed, but it would take me a second to get it, so I'm not showing it to you. I don't need to show it to you. I live here. I'm not squatting. And you'll definitely know that in 6 months when I'm still here. And the Karen's like, you just proved to me that you are a squatter. Well, guess what? You better start packing up now because you're finished. And the Karen literally takes the door and pulls it shut. Since instead of like him slamming the door on her, she literally slams the door reverse. She grabs the door from him and slams it shut. Because I bet she wanted to have kind of like a big period at the end of her sentence. And to do so, slam the door, slam the phone down when it wasn't like the phones we have today, like the old like ones that you actually put down to something. You could slam it by putting it down or whatever, but also a door. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever gotten mad at someone and you're just like, well, if that's how you feel, and then boom, you just slam the door. It's a pretty good way to end it. It definitely shows your point. But the Karen so desperately wanted to prove her point or whatever that she basically would just like pull the door from him and slammed it shut on her own side. So, Aaron at this point walks back to his friend and is like, bro, like we should, like this like woman came over and said that we're squatting. And his friend laughed a little bit. He's like, I don't know, man. Like, she says that she's going to go, like, find someone. So we might be doing something tonight. And his friend, who's, first of all, both of them are exhausted from moving in. The moving process is really tiring. It's really annoying or whatever. So they, the thing they want to do is finish moving in, finish unpacking, which they haven't even done yet. They still have more stuff that they need to do. But the last thing they want to do is deal with the Karen neighbor right now. That is genuinely the last thing that they want to be dealing with. But anyways, they still have to deal with her because about an hour and a half later, give or take, they hear a knock on the door. But instead of like the knock they heard earlier from the Karen, which was the bum, 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 they actually heard a respectful but forceful bum, 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 kind of like a, figure of authority, but I'm not like a deranged lunatic like the Karen neighbor is. And sure enough, they see a police officer there. And you know who they see standing like 20 feet behind watching? The Karen. So the Karen very clearly called the cops, but she wasn't like brave enough, or she for some reason wasn't up there with him. Maybe he was like, ma'am, please step back. Ma'am, she was watching the whole thing from like 20 feet away, and she was like smiling maniacally. This woman was crazy and evil, bro. So yeah, the police officer's like, we got a report that you guys are... you don't own like the lease to this house and that you're just moving in. So we just got to see proof of ownership or whatever. If it's going to take you a second, that's fine. Not trying to rush you, but because we got a report, we do need to look into this. And at this point, Aaron's like, okay, like it'll take me a second to go find it, but can I at least ask this? Was it that lady back there that reported me? And the police officer turns around, and they're both looking at the Karen, and she's like, because she probably thinks that she just got him or whatever. Turns back around, he's like, I don't think I'm supposed to tell you, but I'm also not going to not say it was her. He kind of looked at him for a second, and Aaron looked back at him, and they both kind of like acknowledged that, yeah, this woman was crazy, and she definitely like reported them. But, he's like, all right, well, I'll go get it. Because he doesn't want to tell the police officer, I'm not going to get it either. Because, like, just, bro, just do what he says at this point. Make it easier on both of you. So, yeah. Sure enough, he goes up. He finds the deed or lease or whatever official document is necessary. He comes back down, and he hands it over to the officer. The officer looks at it, and is like, yep, this all checks out. And he walks away. And the Karen's like, are you going to arrest him? Officer, are you going to arrest him? And, he's like, sorry, ma'am, like, no. I don't know if he says sorry, ma'am. He might just be like, no, ma'am, we are not going to arrest this guy. He just showed us proof that he actually lives there. He is your neighbor legally. Like, he's not squatting. Have a good day. And the Karen's like, no, he definitely is squatting there. Whatever he showed you was a forged fake document. And the police officer's like, ma'am, you have no proof of that. I took a look at it. I've seen thousands of these documents. This one's legit. Like, no one actually forges these things. And if they did, I would have noticed. This is a legit document. Go on with your day, ma'am. And the Karen looks very angry. And she walks right by the police officer, right up to the front door. And Aaron is starting to close the door because he's like, I'm not dealing with this. And she literally shoves her foot in to block the door, like a door stand or whatever. Not door stand, a door stopper. And Aaron's like, what? And she's like, I know that you're lying. I know that you're full of crap. I know that you made that up and that you're not actually my neighbor and that you're just squatting. And she's like, oh, no, sorry. And Aaron's like, ma'am, how much more proof do you need? I just showed the police officer my document. And she said, show it to me. And he's like, I don't trust you. I'm not going to give it to you because you might run away with it or rip it up or do something weird with it. She's like, I'm your neighbor. I demand to see it and I legally have to. He's like, ma'am, you do not know the laws of this country, bro. I do not need to legally show you the document of proof that I'm living here. I already unnecessarily did that to the police officer that you called on me. The law has been enacted. I live here. She's like, we'll see about that. She turns around, walks away. So Aaron goes back, sits down. His friend's like, oh man, like, are we free yet? He's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what else she could possibly do at this point, but I got a feeling she's going to be a nuisance for a while. And Aaron's suspicion was 100% on the money because she wasn't just about to be a nuisance. She was about to be a full-fledged Karen criminal. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment Karen down below. That'll be the secret word of the day. It's not very secret, I know, but it'll be the word of the day at least. I'll try and hard as many comments as I can if I got the time, and either way, just make sure to comment that down below. Also, just so you know, these videos are now being posted again on the Spotify. Sorry for the delay, but the Spotify link is down below. The shorts are on TikTok. The link to TikTok is down below, or it's at Connor Pugs if it's not a link. And finally, the best way you can support the channel, get us in the algorithm, and just help out the community is just watch a lot of my videos. It's not that hard, and it helps out more than you can ever imagine. So just when you're done with this or later on, go ahead and watch a bunch of my older videos. It really does help out the channel. And please let me know in the comment section down below how many of my older videos you've been watching, what you're doing while watching them, stuff like that. And I really love reading those comments and replying to some of them. All right, let's get back to it as the Karen's about to break the frickin' law, bro. Anyways, yeah, so sure enough, at this point, Aaron and his friend are just chilling. They're relaxing. They haven't fully moved in because their plan was to fully move in, but they had a few interruptions by a few individuals that shall not be named. The Karen. But, God, I was trying to do a fake cough and ended up just hiccuping during it. I really hope I don't have the hiccups now because that would make the recordings very annoying. Anyways, I think I'm good. Anyways, right, so Aaron and his friend, they're just hanging out. They're just doing whatever, watching a movie or something before they go to bed. And eventually, they decide to go to bed. They're tired. They call it quits early. And yeah, they're in their separate beds or whatever. And that's when his friend comes into Aaron's room at like 1 in the morning, right? It's pitch black. He's like shaking Aaron to wake him up. So Aaron just wakes up super startled. He's like, what's going on? He's like, man, there's someone in the house. There's someone in the house. So immediately, Aaron, he's like, all right. So he goes over, picks up his phone, dials 911, says, hey, we think that someone's in our house. We're calling now just as a precaution. Please show up. We'll let you know if it's nothing. Puts down the phone. Operator, asks for his house address or whatever. They got it. They're coming. So police are coming either way. And Aaron and his friend are like, okay, what do we do? And his friend's like, dude, we should just kind of hide out here. And Aaron's like, well, I kind of want to investigate. First of all, if you think someone's broken into your house, please do not investigate. Just a little warning, don't do that. So his friend's like, Aaron, bro, don't do that. Aaron's like, I just want to look. So Aaron kind of sneaks out and he hears banging coming from the kitchen area. Hears stuff being moved around. There's very clearly someone there. So Aaron turns around and is like, okay, yep, you're right. There is definitely someone in this house. Or maybe a bear broke in, because it kind of sounds like a bear broke in. But anyways, they go into their bedroom, they lock the door, and they just sit there, looking out the window, waiting for the cops to come. So a little while later, they see the blue lights of the cop cars show up, and the cops walk up to the front door. They bang on it a little bit. Then eventually, they break into the door or whatever, and they get in. And so Aaron is like, all right, do you think they got the guy? Because they're hearing hey, you right there, stop, freeze, or whatever. So after a little bit of scruffling, they didn't hear any gunshots or anything too crazy. So Aaron's like, okay, we can definitely go down and check it out now. And as Aaron's about to open up the door, he hears like an officer yell, like, is anyone else in here? And Aaron yells back, yeah, we're the homeowners. We called this in. They're like, where are you located? He's like, come up the stairs or whatever. So he goes up to the officer comes up to the door of Aaron's bedroom or whatever. He looks through the peephole or the keyhole or whatever. Sure enough, it is the officer. So they're all good. They open it up and the officer's like, hey, like, can we see, like, are you guys the homeowners? And they're like, yeah. And they're actually like, wait a minute, let me just show you proof. They go over to their documents, and they show their driver's license, and the documents of whoever owns the home and the driver's license add up. Because look, if maybe 3 people invaded the house, and you can't just say, I'm the homeowner, and the police can't just be like, oh, okay. Like, bro, there's already someone broken into the house. So the police officer's like, the person who broke in is already downstairs. They've been apprehended. Like, you're safe to go down. We actually are going to ask you come down and like take a look at them just in case you recognize them. And Aaron did not for a single second think that he was going to see who he was about to see. It was about to be one of the biggest shocks of his life, or at least one of the biggest shocks he's had in a long, long time. So anyways, Aaron is walking down the stairs, and, the police officer, he's asking like some questions. And he's like, oh, what was it like? What happened? Police officer's like, yeah. So we broke in. Sorry, you have a little damage to the front door, but, it somehow was locked or whatever, and they got in. So we had to break through the door. Sorry. And Aaron's like, well, that's $100 more I need to spend, but whatever, right? Thankfully, the guy's apprehended, or the guy, quote unquote, because you don't know who it is going to be. And he's like, yeah, we got there, and there's this person, and they were like rummaging around stuff. When we said freeze, they didn't really seem to run or have any weapons on them or anything. It was actually a very easy apprehension. They're actually downstairs. The other officer has them, in a corner, got them cuffed up, and we'll just ask them questions now. We can also take this outside if you'd like. And Aaron didn't really care. So they went downstairs, and Aaron and his roommate are like walking down the stairs. They turn the corner, and Aaron sees the Karen in handcuffs in the corner next to the other officer. And Aaron is just like, there's no way. He legit says that out loud. So the officer turns to him and says, oh, so you know this woman? He's like, yes, I've had a brief but terrible history with her. And he's like, oh. So Aaron goes on to explain that that they moved in today. The officer's like, sorry that you're already having this happening, like one day moving in. Like, this is a pretty safe neighborhood. This normally doesn't happen. And he goes on to say, like, okay, well, the reason for this. So Aaron goes on to explain that, like, yeah, this woman came over so that he was, like, squatting in the house when he actually wasn't squatting in the house. And that she called the cops on him, and that they showed proof.
Oh my God, Connor Pugs. I got myself a Manscaped, and it is absolutely amazing. There are absolutely no nicks or scrapes, and it is just beautiful. And I used your code. What's your
Pugs 20, of course. Use that code.
20, and
you love to see it.
% off.
You got 20 whole % off. That's what I'm saying.
Off.
You know I got you. I got you with
Thanks,
that.
man. I love you.
I got you. Anyways, after that very real and normal interaction, so he goes on to explain to the officers that this Karen's been after him for a while. This is not his first rodeo with this Karen, and that she actually said after the police officer came earlier that checked his registration or whatever it was. He checked his something, and it was like kind of proof that it was good. The Karen said that like she didn't believe him and that she was gonna like take into her own hands. And the officer and him, I guess, deduced that the Karen was rummaging around their house after breaking in and trespassing to try and find the deed to kind of prove that it was fake or whatever, to take a photo or prove herself like she would know what it would look like. But yeah, the Karen accused him of breaking the law, but the Karen herself ended up breaking the law. So the officers asked if he wanted to press any charges, and Aaron said no, but on some conditions. And the conditions were basically that if the Karen broke in again, then yes, there would be consequences. And also just the police officers to explain to the Karen that there would be serious consequences if she did anything else like this. And to pound it through her head that they actually lived there, right? They actually lived there. Like, come on now. Is it really that hard to believe that? So yeah, moral of the story is don't be a Karen. Bye.